Okay, let's get right into it. We talk a lot about the food we eat, right? But what about how our bodies actually break it all down to get energy? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain on this incredible, invisible workforce living in your gut, these tiny but powerful proteins we call digestive enzymes. Honestly, they are the true unsung heroes of your entire digestive system.
I mean, who hasn't been there? You finish what should be a really satisfying meal, but instead of feeling great and energized, you just feel heavy. You know that feeling, the pressure, the bloating, maybe a little gassy. It's super common, but that doesn't mean you just have to put up with it.
And that's really the good news here. You are definitely not alone. This isn't some big, unsolvable mystery. For so many of us, that uncomfortable feeling after eating points right back to a very specific biological process. And the answer lies with these tiny but mighty helpers we're about to meet.
So let's do it. Let's meet these helpers. They're your digestive enzymes, and their job is absolutely crucial. They are the ones responsible for turning the food you put in your mouth into the actual fuel your body can use. You know, this definition really nails it. Think about it like this. Trying to absorb a piece of steak whole is like trying to shove a giant log through a tiny keyhole. It's just not going to happen. Enzymes are like an army of tiny biological carpenters that show up and break that log down into sawdust, which can then pass through that keyhole easily. They take big, complex foods and turn them into simple, tiny nutrients we can actually absorb.
So first up in our lineup is amylase. You can think of amylase as the specialist for carbohydrates. So when you're eating things like bread, rice, potatoes, amylase is the one that jumps into action. It starts snipping apart those long, complicated starch chains into simple sugars like glucose that your cells can use for a quick energy boost. Next, we've got protease. This is your protein expert. Its job is to tackle the proteins from foods like chicken, lentils, or yogurt and break them down into their most basic components, which are amino acids. And those amino acids, they are literally the building blocks your body uses for just about everything, from repairing muscle to making hormones. And rounding out our main trio is lipase. Now this one, as you might guess, is all about the fats. So after you have a meal with healthy fats like avocado or salmon, lipase is the enzyme that steps in to dismantle those fats and oils into much smaller fatty acids, which your body can then absorb and use for energy storage and a whole bunch of other critical jobs. And this image right here illustrates the whole idea perfectly. Just look at that. You can literally see how amylase works just like a tiny pair of molecular scissors. It finds these big, tangled starch chains and just goes snip, 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 breaking them into these small, usable sugars. It's such a great way to picture what's happening inside you at this very moment. Okay, so that's how the system is supposed to work. But what happens when this beautifully designed system hits a snack? Well, this is where our story takes a bit of a turn, and we have to talk about enzyme deficiency. It's a pretty straightforward cause and effect situation. You see, our bodies might not make enough of these enzymes for all sorts of reasons. It could be aging, too much stress, or certain health conditions. But no matter the cause, the result is the same. If you don't have enough of the right scissors for the job, those big food molecules just can't get broken down. They pass through your system largely undigested, and that is what leads to all those uncomfortable problems we mentioned at the very beginning. And what's really fascinating here is how specific and telling these signs can be. It's not just some vague feeling of being unwell. For example, undigested fat leads to those fatty, foul-smelling stools you see listed. That's a super clear indicator that your body is struggling to break down fat, so they're passing right through you. This can even cause weight loss because you're eating food, but you're just not absorbing its energy. All right, so that's the problem. But now, for the good part, the solution. You have a lot more control than you might think. And we can start with the most delicious and natural toolkit there is, the food in your own kitchen. Seriously, nature has already provided us with some amazing options here. Tropical fruits like pineapple and papaya are loaded with proteases that help with protein digestion. Mangoes and bananas can give you a nice amylase boost for your carbs. Avocado is a great source of lipase for fats. And don't even get me started on fermented foods like kimchi and sauerkraut. They are absolute enzyme powerhouses. Just adding more of these to your diet is a fantastic and delicious first step. But you know, what if you've tried changing your diet and it's just not quite enough? Well, for some people, a little extra support is what's needed. And that's when we can start to look beyond the kitchen. This chart does a great job of laying out the two main paths forward. On one hand, you've got food-based enzymes. They're gentle, they're natural, and they come packaged with other good stuff like fiber. On the other hand, you have supplements, which give you a really concentrated and targeted dose. They're great for addressing specific issues, and they're super convenient. It's not about one being better than the other, they just serve different needs.
Now, for people with medically diagnosed conditions like something called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI, where the pancreas just doesn't produce enough enzymes on its own, there's a medical grade solution. It's called pancreatic enzyme replacement therapy, or PERT. And it's basically a prescription designed to give the body the enzymes it's missing so it can absorb nutrients properly again. And here are just a few examples of what those therapies look like. You can see some of the common brand names here. The main point is that this is a well-established area of medicine. But of course, these are very powerful treatments, and they absolutely require a diagnosis and a prescription from a doctor. This is not something you experiment with on your own. So let's just quickly recap the big points. Number 1, think of enzymes as your body's molecular scissors that chop up food. 2, things like bloating and gas might be a sign that you're running low on those scissors. 3, you can get more from amazing natural foods like pineapple, papaya, and kimchi. 4, supplements and even prescription therapies can offer more concentrated support if you need it. And last, but this is the most important one, if you're having persistent digestive issues, please go talk to a healthcare professional.
So I'll leave you with one final question to think about. Just look back at that list of delicious, enzyme-rich foods we saw. What's just one thing from that list you could easily add to your meals this week? Maybe it's some pineapple in your morning smoothie, or a little sauerkraut on the side with dinner. It's amazing how a small, simple step can sometimes make a really big difference in how you feel. Thanks for digging into all this with me today.